So I want to talk about exactly what I've learned in entrepreneurship around how to live peacefully and happily in your life. And this perspective has come from really a journey through entrepreneurship of actually finding myself quite recently not feeling that happy and not feeling that fulfilled with life. And then being able to go from that space into really starting to dial in a lot more into the things that are important when it comes to finding happiness and peace and fulfillment in life. And my objective or the aim in this particular video is to really shift some awareness, or bring some awareness and shift some perspectives around the things that are causing us maybe not to feel peaceful or not to feel happy, and how to let those go, and how to instead create a space where we're able to find, regardless of our external situations, this state of calm and peace and happiness that is so important to ultimately living a fulfilled life. Now, as you're watching this, if you like what we're talking about, if you get something from some of these perspectives, then please do comment below. I'd love to hear your comments, and also a lot of other people do get value from the comments as well, so make sure to leave any thoughts, questions, etc. below. And if you do enjoy this, please remember to hit subscribe, and you'll get 3 videos like this every single week, 3 a week, that I do around this or online business as well. So hit subscribe down below and the little notification bell so that you get reminders. Now, when it comes to living peacefully and living a happy life, we've got to first look at what is it, or what's the opposite? What is not living a peaceful, happy life? And for me, that would be, being stressed, being anxious, being fearful, worrying. So basically the opposite state of one that is calm and still and present is one that's going to be frantic and all over the place and future pacing and reading into the past. It's like your energy that you're putting into things when you're in that state is completely different. It's almost the opposite energy to when you're peaceful and calm and still. Okay? So if that's the opposite, it's like this frantic, worried, stressful, fearful energy, then we can look at what is it that's causing us to be in that state, in that anxious and worried and fearful state, as opposed to one that is peaceful and calm and still. And normally, it's going to be situations, things that we're imagining that might happen, right? Normally, it's that we're future pacing. So we'll say, I can't be peaceful, I can't be happy because I haven't got enough money in my bank account and I've got bills to pay, and I'm stressed that if I can't pay them, I'm not going to be able to pay the mortgage, and then I'm going to lose the house and blah, 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 blah. Or it might be, I can't be peaceful because my relationship is not going well and I'm worried that my partner's going to leave me. Or I can't be peaceful because I'm worried about my kids and they're growing up in a school where they're getting bullied and da-da-da-da-da, or whatever. There's going to be story after story after story after story that will have happening in our life at the moment. And often the dialogue is, I can't be peaceful until this thing changes. Now, the point is that if we're in this space where our external situations are defining us, then we're always going to be facing challenges. There's always going to be things in our life that will happen to us that will then define us and define our state. And we end up just going through life really a slave to what's happening around us. What's happening around us continues to define us. And the way to realize that we're looking at things the wrong way is to ask, are there other people in the world who are facing the same or worse challenges than us, and yet are still able to find this state of peace and calm? And the answer is yes. And I've talked about a book quite recently, actually. There's a video on my channel. You can find it in the top corner right now. Just click the little eye. There's a book by Viktor Frankl, which is called Man's Search for Meaning. And it's how Viktor Frankl in Nazi concentration camps was able to find happiness and peace despite the terrible things that were happening around him. And that really proves beyond any doubt that happiness truly is a choice. We can choose to be happy if we want to. We can choose to respond to a situation instead of reacting based on our past programming. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that, we're stressed because we don't have money to pay the bills, right? It's not that physical situation that's causing us the stress. It's how we're choosing to view that situation that is causing the stress. Because that situation in itself, that challenge, it's possible to look at that and look at that through a lens that can cause us to feel grateful. And a prime example would be to understand and to know that everything that we're proud of in ourselves, we are because of the challenges that we faced in our life. And if we look back over our life at all the challenges we faced, we could recognize that everything that we're proud of in ourselves, every trait that we are, that we're a good leader, or we're honest, or we're honorable, or we're brave, or we're integral, or whatever it is that we're most proud of about ourselves, you can guarantee that that has come from a point in our life where we were challenged and we were tested. It's always the challenges that shape us into what we're most proud of. And so if that's the case, and we're now coming up against a financial challenge, we can either choose to fear that and feel stressed about it and feel anxious, or we can choose to look at it and go, you know what? The tougher this challenge, the more that I have to go through, the more I'm going to grow. So you can look at the challenge and go, I'm grateful that I get to experience this genuinely. Because if I get to experience this, I get to become more. I get to grow. I get to level myself up, and that's a good thing. And that will instantly, just that one little reframe will start to change the way that we look at these challenges ahead of us. And so here's the key. If we're feeling stressed and anxious and worried, and we're not at peace, and we're not happy, and we're not calm, the stress and the anxiety and the worry is a massive, massive clue that there's something that we're looking at, there's something that we're future pacing, and we're creating a story around that. And the stress and the anxiety and the fear is there because we are trying to control a future situation because we're fearing it happening and we're trying to avoid it. And if that's the case, right, it's the fact that we're trying to control it and we're trying to avoid it, which of course, we're not psychic, we can't predict the future. We don't have that level of control that we can exactly dictate how things are going to pan out ahead of us. And believing that we can control it and trying to avoid it will cause stress and anxiety and worry because it's uncontrollable. And instead, if we recognize that we're feeling stress and anxiety and worry because of a story that we've created that doesn't even exist, hasn't even happened yet, it's imagined in the future, and if we choose to just let go of that and go, you know what, if I face that challenge, fantastic, I get to grow, I get to level up. And also, if we can approach life with faith and trust that everything will always work out okay, because it always has, right? If you're watching this video, you're not in mortal danger right now. If a tiger was to burst into the room, that would be a legitimate time to feel stress and fear and anxiety. We would be mobilized biochemically to respond in a very specific way if a tiger was to burst into the room right now. But that aside, right now, in this moment, in this current situation, what do we actually have to feel stressed and anxious about and fearful about? Nothing, right? You're probably, sitting somewhere on your phone watching this video, or sitting at home on your laptop watching this video, or wherever you are. Look around you right now. Is there anything in this moment to be stressed and anxious and worried about? The answer is probably no. Unless there's a tiger that's burst into the room. And if that's the case, then the stress and the anxiety and the worry is there because we've created a future-paced scenario that doesn't even exist yet, because we're trying to control the future that is uncontrollable. And the reason we're trying to control it is because we're fearful of that thing actually happening and fearful of going there. And the imagined worst-case scenario is always worse than it ever happening, because again, if it actually happens, we can look at it and go, I'm grateful that I get to experience this challenge because that's what's going to level me up. I can't get to where I want to get to unless I experience these challenges as part of the journey. And if that is the case, it means the fact that I'm experiencing this challenge means I'm on the journey. It means I'm going to where I'm trying to, where I want to get to. Right? If I have a vision, if I have goals, if I have a future that I want to create, and I've now got a challenge that's coming up ahead of me, for example, a financial challenge, There's a lesson in that I need to get for me to get to there. And I'm not going to get to there until I get the lesson. And I'm not going to get the lesson until I go through the challenge. So I need the challenge so I can embrace the challenge. And with that logic and with that story behind our future imagined challenges, we can learn to do the next thing that's very important, which is to embrace the worst case scenario. Because the stress and the anxiety and the fear, they exist because we don't want to go there, and we're trying to control the future to make sure we don't go there, and that's what's creating the stress and the anxiety and the fear, and that means we're focusing on the very thing that we're fearing, and that means that we're going to end up manifesting that into our life. But if we can embrace the worst case scenario and go, you know what, if it happens, it happens. I'm going to let go. I'm going to surrender. I'm going to just chill out. I'm going to stop fearing it. And then suddenly the stress and the anxiety and the worry disappear. Because when we embrace it and when we're actually genuinely okay with whatever happening, it no longer defines us. It no longer controls us. And here's the magic. Where focus goes, energy flows. And if we're stressed and anxious and worried, it's because we're focusing on something that we don't want to happen. And because we're focusing on that, that's exactly the energy that we are attracting and what we will bring into our life. And the reason why this is the case is because if we're focusing on that and we're fearing it because we're not embracing it and we're not willing to go there, the fear and the anxiety and the worry will cause us to close up, right? It will cause us to we won't be able to perform to the same level that we're able to because we're focusing on this thing that we want to avoid. And because of that, the energy that we put into every moment, everything that we do, the energy is defined by that thing that we're fearing. And because that is defining us, and because the energy that we're putting in when we're closed and constricted and we're not able to go there is now defining us, what we're going to end up manifesting is in line with that energy, which is the very thing that we fear. We attract it into our lives. But if we instead surrender and we let go and we go, you know what, if it happens, it happens. I'm open, and now I'm going to focus on my vision, focus on my goals, and free from being defined by the fear, I will move forwards. That is a very different energy. Imagine meeting two people in a public place like a bar. And one of them is completely constricted and fearful. They're breathing shallow. They're looking down. Their voice is just, they're not projecting. They're just really shy and really awkward and uncomfortable. And another person's completely relaxed. They're completely open. Their chin's up. Their breathing's deep. Eye contact. Because they're there. They're present. They're in the moment. They're not defined by fear. They are just free from any stories defining them. They're just there in the moment. Now, which person, if you look at those two people, who would you be more confident is able to create an awesome life, or is able to find wealth, or is able to meet the partner of their dreams, or is able to perform in any area of life? Who would you bet on out of those two people? Why is that? Because you instinctively know that the one who's open and ready, he is the one that is going to perform and is going to be able to succeed in life. The one who's closed and constricted and fearful will not. We already know that. But when it comes to us, we don't recognize this is happening when the future's defining us and we're in this fearful state. We don't recognize that we are manifesting the very thing that we fear. Because that's the energy that we're projecting out, and therefore that's what we attract back. And so to tie this down and come full circle, if you want to live a peaceful and happy and fulfilled life, we've got to choose to stop letting what's happening around us define us. We've got to choose to just appreciate and be grateful for everything that happens, because those are the challenges that we need to move forwards. And if that's the case, and we can look at what is the actual worst case scenario that could happen if we go there, actually get specific. What would I do if I ran out of money in my bank account tomorrow? What would I actually do? Right, I'd get a job, I'd change my job, I'd ask this person for money, I'd sort myself out in this way, this would happen. When my back's against the wall, this is what I would do to make sure that it will be okay. It always will be okay because it always has. I can trust that. And with that in mind, if we can go, you know what, if the worst happens, bring it on, so be it. And then we let go of what's defining us through fear. We let go of that thing that we're, holding on to, that we're trying to control, not going there, and we're trying to avoid, that's causing us to be constricted and fearful. We let go of that and go, if that happens, fine. Now let's go, right? We're open, we're trusting, we're faithful, and we're present in the moment. And then suddenly, we're in a state of peace and calm, because right now there's nothing to fear. And in the future, there's nothing to fear, because whatever happens will happen. And if we're cool with it, and we recognize that's what we need to move us forward, and we can trust that if we want to achieve that, then we've got to let go of the fear here if we're going to move there. Because as long as the fear is here that's defining us in our energy, we're going to keep finding this same challenge appear again and again and again in our lives until we can let go of it and just embrace it. Then we can move through it. Okay? Peace and happiness comes from presence and the right response to the challenges that happen in our life. If you've enjoyed this video, if you've got something out of this, please hit like, please comment down below. Any perspectives you have, any questions you have, anything to share, drop it in the comments, because a lot of people do get value from the comments. And also, if you do want to get a video like this, 3 videos, like this every single week, hit subscribe down below and you will get a notification, as long as you hit the little notification bell, for every single video that goes live. All right, so thanks very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I will speak to you in the next video. Bye for now.